Hello, and welcome to episode number 164. Can't believe it's been 164 episodes. It seems like just yesterday we started kind of doing this effort when I was like first joining Isovalent about 4 years ago, which is a great place to jump in because this episode is a year in review for 2024, and there has been a lot of action this year. It's been a lot. It's been a crazy year with lots of really great stuff. And I think it'll be a really kind of fun retro of like what that actually looked like. So let's get this started here. I'm going to share my screen. As always, we're going to start off as we normally do by clicking on the echo. Excuse me. Getting over the last bit of a cold. So by clicking on the echo news, and if you would like to subscribe to that, you can always just come straight to cilium.io/newsletter, and that's where you're going to find all of the news. In fact, there have been, so we started with 46 and we're ending with 70. So there's been something like 34 different Echo News episodes throughout the entire year. You can also see what happened in 2022 and 2023. All of the historical ones are there. I think there might be one more coming for the month of December, but it's not out yet. Let's take a look at this week's news. So Mr. Bill took the week off to to celebrate Thanksgiving with his family and recover from KubeCon. Of course, KubeCon was like such a huge one. It was really a great time in Salt Lake City. We had a wonderful Hive Mind event. We had a lot of really great engagement. We just really had a wonderful. I mean, the entire crew just had a really wonderful time there. Everything from, and I know that you've already seen this because we did a retro on KubeCon in a previous episode of Echo Office Hours, but suffice to say, it was just an incredible show, and we all had a wonderful time. Everything from the Cilium developer, um, from the Cilium developer meeting, all the way to eBPF day, and then like even before the show started, we had like such a wonderful time at Cloud Native Rejects, which if you have never been, I highly recommend it as a conference. Cloud Native Rejects is just a really great way to connect with a bunch of folks who were unable to get their talks into KubeCon because there have been so many submissions, but at the same time, it's like such a high quality of talk. This year, I got to see a number of really, I don't think I can really pick a favorite. There's so many really good ones that came this year, like Mr. Justin Garrison talking about how Kubernetes can learn a little bit about scheduling and orchestration from other existing orchestrators. Um, we have Adrian Moat talking about like container security and all of that stuff called Containers Bite Back. I really enjoyed that talk, and he also kind of, having attended my talk with Kyle Quest, he kind of gave me a shout out in that one. That was pretty fun. But definitely check those out if they're of interest to you. They're all recorded, and of course, and they're available. Lots of great stuff from a blog, from this blog, which is Jeff Chang talking about Cilium and Argo CD on a single node Kubernetes cluster on your laptop. A love story of eBPF and GitOps. Just kind of walking through how you can get this going and how you can play with it. Pretty exciting stuff. Leveraging KubeADM. It's a good project to leverage for this kind of thing. And, can get some good takeaways. Cilium has evolved from just another CNI to the CNI that ate all of the other CNIs in a good way. It's very true in this, setting its sights on being the only stack for Kubernetes networking. And over the years, it has evolved to address key areas like things like BGP, egress gateway that have evolved over time. So definitely completely agree with Jeff on that one. We also have, on the eBPF side, the new stack recently highlighted that eBPF's foundation's positive approach or proactive approach to addressing security concerns should be commended. Right? I really like that. And then just this last Wednesday, 2 days ago, the CFP closed for CiliumCon, but there's going to be a lot of reviews for everything that's happening in London coming up. So it should be a lot of fun. Into the technical. This is a thing I get asked quite often, and I love that repos like this exist because it gives people a starting place. But frequently people will ask, like, I want to play with eBPF how do I get started? Like, what does it look like to get started? And this is a great example of kind of a simpler way of actually just getting started. So this is Dev in the Cloud talking about protect from DDoS attacks with eBPF XDP. To give you a little bit of context, XDP it stands for Accelerated Data Path, and it can actually be implemented in the network interface itself, right? So rather than writing that eBPF program and injecting it into a network namespace in the Linux kernel, you can actually write an eBPF program and have it tied directly to the network interface. Now, the benefit of this is that on ingress through that network interface, we can be very, very efficient about actually managing traffic or filtering traffic or that sort of stuff. He calls out the common use cases, things like load balancing, being able to distribute traffic, DDoS, distributed denial of service. If you're able to drop or filter malicious packets at the network interface, then that means it never shows up in the Linux kernel. You're never spending CPU time to actually stop that. To stop that traffic because it's basically happening in the NIC, which is pretty amazing. Hey, Mr. Tony, good to see you. Welcome to the show. Glad you're here. So, kind of talks through these things, kind of talks through the plan, what he's going to implement, and then starts jumping into the development part of it, and actually shows the XTB program that he writes to handle this use case and walks you through the logic. I think this is a really well written blog post that really kind of helps people understand like what's actually happening here. Even takes you through to the load and the attach part, right? So like with any eBPF program, whether it's XDP based or written for tying into some particular function within the Linux kernel, you're going to still have to attach. And so this actually describes how to leverage IP link to go ahead and attach your XDP program directly to the NIC that is actually going to handle this traffic. I don't know if Oh yeah, E0. Okay. So he's tying it to a physical interface, I think. But there's lots of options. XDP is also a generic instruction set in the Linux kernel. So you can, instead of tying this to a physical NIC, you can actually it's like one step less efficient because you're then using the Linux kernel to do those work. You're not offloading it to the network interface, but at the same time, it's a good way of actually kind of using this to kind of validate configuration and that sort of stuff. So great write up. I get asked this all the time, and it's just another really good example of how to kind of get started. Hello, eBPF. Is another good one. Controlled task scheduling with a custom scheduler written in Java. I feel like we've talked about that one before. Though we actually had them come and present on that at eBPF Summit this year. And then, of course, I'm sure you have probably met or at least seen Mr. Dan Finneran here on this show or there at at KubeCon or any number of other places. Welcome, Joseph. Glad you're here. Oh, there we go. That's what I meant to say. Welcome, Joseph. But Mr. Dan Finneran, I guess, feeling the end of the year coming close to him and was like, you know what? I am just going to try something completely crazy over the Thanksgiving holiday break. And he decided to just build his own service mesh, leveraging eBPF. So he kind of writes up like what that all looked like, how that all works. And it's pretty impressive. So definitely check it out if that's something you want, if that's a rabbit hole that you are super interested in jumping into. But there is a lot more to it. There is a lot more like it's um, a complete exploration of this whole thing. So definitely check it out if that's something you're interested in. Mr. Dan is like, he's amazing. He can kind of do pretty much anything. We have the advent of code with eBPF. That is somebody doing the work for the advent of code, which I really like. Trying to solve the advent of code with leveraging eBPF. We have Mimic, a UDP to TCP obfuscator. Inside of the ecosystem, the eBPF Foundation releases the security threat model and audit reports as it relates to eBPF as a technology. So this is more like jumping. This is not the last one. This will be one more. There'll be one more. This might be the last. It's a great question. I think this might be the last Echo office hours of the year. Yes. Yeah, so this episode is about just kind of doing a review of what happened in 2024 and that kind of stuff. But first, we're going through the news, right? Basically, like as we always do. I do want to point out this thing, which I think is just super fun. If you go to the link, and I'll actually put the link in the chat because I love it. So let me grab the link here, copy link address, and I'll paste it right there. Paste. Oh wow, that's quite a pain in the butt. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can find a better link. Hmm. One second here. Copy the link address. All right, there we go. I'll put that link into the chat. So this link will actually take you to the season's greetings thing, which is here, which I think is really super fun. This is a thing that you can do every day. So today is the 13th, but there's one every day for basically through the holiday break. If you click on any of them, you can kind of see what they are. Nothing yet. Nothing yet. Getting started with Tetragon. If you click on Get My Gift, you can post to X or to Blue Sky. Documentary unlocking lots of great stuff, lots of great different content that's available in this way. And it's a season of Cilium, and it happens every day for the rest of the year. So even though this may be the last of the eCHO office hours for the year, you can still engage in this. And there is the link in the chat. All right. Challenge your Cilium knowledge. Step into the world of Cilium at day zero kickoff. The how-to covers Cilium and Argo CD in a single node, as we mentioned. The video, Cilium and eBPF Day NA 2022. All of the videos are now up. There were some really great talks at eBPF Day, and they're all up now. Some of the ones that I really, really enjoyed were the one by Namita Mesha and Alvaro Elman talking about Confluent's multi-cloud journey to Cilium. That was a really great one. Um, really kind of highlighted some of the challenges that they ran into. And this next one was eBPF for creating least privilege policies. What do I need to know? And that was my friend Natalia and John Fasteman, the inventor of Tetragon and all of that. What do we got here? Tony says, I haven't done I haven't done anything of interest lately, but you, on the other hand, Mr. Ligger, that massive cluster mesh is impressive. I agree. Yeah, lots of great stuff happening. All right. Kubernetes traffic engineering with Cilium, scenarios, diagrams, and best practices, a webinar on December 12th. And then we actually just got approved for the eBPF Day room at FOSDEM. So if you're going to be at FOSDEM, definitely come check it out. And then I found out, I heard this and I kind of love it. I'm glad that I'm not the only one that found that funny, but CiliumCon in London is going to be happening on April 1st. So that should be entertaining in its own way. All right, let's jump into what's happening next. So early in the year, like actually the very last part of 2023, probably right around November, maybe no, it was during the break. So it was like basically this time of year last year when we were kind of in our holiday break, we had an announcement that was Isovalent and Cisco, what it means for our customers. And that was the announcement for the acquisition of Isovalent into Cisco. And we've spent this whole year basically making sure that we are very, very clear about the fact that Isovalent is not changing the way that it goes to business. We're still doing all the same things we still care just as much about eBPF, isovalent, Cilium, Tetragon, all of our open source projects and our commitment to all of that. And that is kind of an amazing, it's just a great way of kind of kicking off this episode of A Year in Review. So in the last year, we have done a ton of work, like a ton of work, whether it is new, whether they are events, whether they are just kind of connecting with our community and all of the different KubeCons and all of the different meetups and all of the different um, security days and all of those things, whether it's getting the word out and helping do things like labs or webinars and help people walk through like how to do those things, whether it's working with our customers or inviting or meeting new customers or engaging with new engaging with new companies on this wonderful journey. This year has just been chock full of that type of action. It's just been amazing. So it's just from the very beginning of just like joining Cisco all the way through to today, we have just been nonstop working the whole year round. And I wanted to actually kind of like take a quick historical look of like what was happening in X, and also talk a little bit about the fact that we're not really doing X anymore, weirdly enough. Like I actually just noticed that in this episode that you're tuned into was not really announced um, via X. It was actually announced only on Blue Sky, which I was surprised by. But if you are curious about what we've been up to, you can actually go to X and look probably this year for the last year and look at all of the different posts that are actually happening, talking about different things that have happened over the year. A grateful Thanksgiving post, just tons of really great contents. A book signing by Liz Rice at KubeCon this year. The entire KubeCon crew, Mr. Jeff Spaletta, and everybody else that's out there, just had an incredible year, right? Lots and lots of great events that are happening and that have happened. We were at Security Day. We hosted we helped present at an event in kind of all over the world, really, like everywhere from uh, everywhere from London to um, spots in Europe for for different events. Just tons and tons of great stuff. We had a number of online webinars talking about different technologies that we actually produce. This was all happening at eBPF Day. We had Mr. Joe Stringer, who was awarded with the Contributor of the Year or the Maintainer of the Year for his work on Cilium. We just had a ton of really great work done. This is all the KubeCon stuff, of course. But you can keep going and you can get a little further back and see kind of like whatever. There was another great team at the KCD UK this year. That was a really fun one. We had Dan and Shadrach and James. Yeah, just an amazing year. We also have, from the Cilium perspective, right? How many new users? How many new engagements? Lots of really great folks coming to join us for the first time. Lots of really great stuff happening. The next thing I wanted to show. Oh, apparently this tab kind of went to sleep on me. Let's hope it'll come back here. I don't know how many of you have actually explored this. I mean, I kind of about to find out, really. But let's look at this real quick. If you go to isovalent.com/labs, there are a ton of different labs that are constantly updated and maintained by our amazing lab crew. And you can actually sort the labs by things like project. So if you wanted to see just those labs that are related to Tetragon or Hubble or Cilium, you can actually filter that way. You can look at the different versions. There's a bunch of open source labs. There are enterprise labs that show off enterprise functionality, and then the difficulty, topic, etc. There's lots of really great stuff in here. I wanted to show you though like basically kind of like what it looks like for us this year from the labs, right? So we saw an increase of 30% in the number of plays in the labs this year. And that means that like over the entire year from last year, and you can see that really this happened kind of like in the beginning, right? From December to January, just a ton more attracted. It's almost interesting that like this blue line is 2023 and this purple line is 2024. And our steady state for 2024 is right around 27 to 3,000 kind of every month plays. Pretty amazing. The number of unique users reached, people who have actually just logged in for the first time to take a lab, 12,105. And the average time spent in a lab is about 24 minutes, which is in line. We try to keep these labs pretty concise, but kind of amazing how much engagement we see. 32% completion rate on, let's just sort by the most popular labs here. This does take a second because it's like doing a big lookup here over the entire year. So it takes a sec. But if you haven't been to the labs, definitely come check them out. There's just a ton of really great content here, and it really shows off like all of the capabilities of Cilium and Tetragon. And we actually host different labs, not just for like your education, but also to actually help our customers learn how to do all of this stuff, right? So definitely come check them out. One of my favorite ones here, this is a relatively new one. This is called Cilium for Virtual Machines with KubeVirt. And then in this lab, we stand up KubeVirt on top of a cluster, and we actually show you what Cilium could do inside of KubeVirt. KubeVirt, as you may have heard, is actually kind of a pretty impressive solution out there for plays. I wanted to sort by plays. That was my mistake. It's a pretty impressive solution for virtualization. Now, I wouldn't say it's a direct replacement for VMware yet. I think that's a pretty high bar, and KubeVirt's getting there. But at the same time, yeah, it's amazing. And these unique visitors. These are just like this doesn't take into account the same user taking multiple labs, right? That's just individual unique users. Pretty amazing. So getting started with Cilium was our most reached, was 4,643. We had get started with eBPF. That was an eBPF one. Right behind it, getting started with eBPF with the badge. I think it's actually right behind that one, down 41% because probably being replaced by this one. Cilium Gateway API, BGP on Cilium, getting started with Tetragon. Pretty amazing stuff. All right, next thing I wanted to show you was there's actually been a pretty big announcement. This was announced at KubeCon just this year. There is now a new Cilium Certified Associate exam. And when I was looking it up for the Linux Foundation link, I thought I saw this as well, which was posted by Sajeev Lakmal on October 12th. And I thought this was a great write-up on how to pass that exam. So if that's an exam you're interested in being a part of, there's a bit more information about it. You got a 12-month exam eligibility, one retake allowed, multiple choice questions, exam duration is 90 minutes. Certification is valid for 2 years, and it is online proctored. But what I really liked was this piece here, which actually takes you to a Linux Foundation coupons as of December 2024. Now, some of these have expired, like the cyber deal like expired on December 11th. But there's also 30% off Linux Foundation exclusive discount. If you go to KubeFlex, you can get a discount of 30% off, which is pretty nice. So that was pretty awesome. So yeah, everything from, there's just been so many things that have happened this year. And one of the ways I like to try and keep track of this is through this page. And I don't know if you all have visited this page, but this events page, isovalent.com/events, kind of takes you through everything that has happened and everything that is coming up. So coming up in January, we have hybrid cloud security, Cilium powered microsegmentation for VMs and clouds on January 21st. We have DNS troubleshooting made simple, real world scenarios on January 14th. That's an online one. And then, of course, what's new with Cilium and Isovalent Enterprise for Cilium 116. That's now on demand. That's already was just recorded. But you can also look at the historical record of events, I think. What? I thought we should. Something has changed here. That's all the on-demand stuff. Mm, let's do this. Site. Yeah, so you can do a historical search in this way, kind of see what's happening, right? Lots of really great stuff. Kubernetes networking, Cilium for network engineers, a workshop session. We were in New York for an event, showing high wide mingle. eBPF runtime, touch upon insights from V114. Yeah, service mesh workshop. We were at Cloud Native Security Con, Cilium Path. This was actually really fun. We had Christine Kim doing a presentation on one project, different angles, how to secure and observe with Cilium. We had Jeff Spletta doing a talk on Kubernetes node firewalling from the inside out. Just lots of really great stuff. Anyway, what an amazing year. The question is, Duffy M, are you asking if I am certified by CCA? Joseph? I'm trying to find out if you're asking if I'm certified, because the answer is no, because I contributed to the test. I've also contributed to the CKA, the CKS, the Certified Kubernetes Security Associate, CKSA. Is that what it is? I contributed to a lot of the of the tests. I haven't taken it because I contributed to it, which means that like I can't take it. I'm part of the ones that are I'm one of the authors of the test. Same thing for the same thing for the Certified Kubernetes Security Exam, CKS, and also for the CKA. I'm one of the authors of it both. I remember, however, this is a great, fun anecdote. One of the first times I ever took the CKA was when it was in beta, and I was working at CoreOS at the time. And the test was written against 1.16, I think it was, and we were already forward of that. And if you remember, like that transition was the transition from etcd v2 to etcd v3, and there were a lot of changes in the way that standing up a Kubernetes cluster would work, and also for things like taking an etcd backup and all of that, right? So it was very different. And because I was working at CoreOS, we were very forward of everything that was happening. So that meant we were constantly tracking the most recent version of Kubernetes in the work that we were doing with Tectonic at the time. So when I took the test, I was expecting the test to be like I was expecting the test to be based on the most recent version of Kubernetes, and it was based on a previous one because it took so long for the test to get out of beta and into production. So I was still a beta tester, and the beta testers actually had to take that against a previous version of Kubernetes. And so I was already so far forward of the previous version that it took me a minute, like, to get to answer some of those questions, because they were like, how do you take a snapshot of etcd? And the answer that they were looking for was you have to stop etcd, take a snapshot of the data directory. And in etcd v3, you do not have to stop it. You just tell it to take a snapshot. It was pretty wild. But yeah, I remember at the end of the taking that CKA, I was like, I look forward to taking that test again, because I really didn't think I would have passed. It was such a hard test, and I ended up actually passing. So that was wild. Anyway, I think that's all I have to share with you this year. It's been such an amazing year. There have been so many things happening. It's just been just an incredible amount of work, working with all kinds of different people, both in the community and also in the uh, the commercial enterprise. Just a ton of great stuff. So I guess I will say, actually, you know what I'm curious about? Let's do this. If we go to Cilium, if we go to GitHub, here's the repository. And what I'm curious about is we pop into Cilium here, we look at releases. I think so. We're just about to ship 117, which is pretty exciting. It's in pre right now. We just shipped 116. What were we on in? There you go. That's wow. So we were on 116 for quite a while this year, because this 115 pre in September 29th of 2023. So I go back to page 6. We can see the turn of the year. And January 16th was the RC1 of 115. And so 116 was 2024. Pretty amazing. That's awesome. Insights. It doesn't show you a year. It shows you at most a month. So that's November. Yeah. Lots of great changes in the month of November. Awesome. Yeah, exactly. February 2025. I believe everything is probably going to plug along. It's probably going to get in time. We got lots of great folks working on all of that stuff. Surprisingly, in this year, whenever you're acquired into a large company, sometimes there's going to be some attrition, because like some people don't want to work for a large company, some people, etc. And we've had very, very little release. We've had very, very little attrition within Isovalent. So I'm not worried about the timelines for anything, because anything, we're still growing. When we were acquired, we were like 130, and now we're like up to like 150 and continuing to grow. So awesome stuff. But I think that is the wrap for this particular episode. There's just been so much activity, so many things done this year. I'm really looking forward to next year, where even more exciting things will happen. One of the things that I'm probably most excited about is this project in the coming year is Tetragon. We can see there's been a ton of content. There's been a ton of changes, releases. There's currently release at v1.3.0, and yeah, lots of great stuff out there. You can see this project has been under heavy development. So when we started the year, we were developing 1.0.2, and we're already 1.3.0 this year. Yeah, so Tetragon is really ramping up. We have a lot more commits, a lot more exciting things happening with Tetragon this year. And I'm expecting more of that to come. I completely agree. Yeah. Like it comes as a great, I mean, when we were first talking about acquisition, I remember the some of the early conversations that I had with Thomas and Dan around all of this, and I was like absolutely expressing the concerns of like what's going to happen with what's going to happen with the projects that we're working on, all of that stuff. And they were 100% committed. They had like said, that they had actually had a lot of these conversations already with leadership, and that they were 100% committed to like continuing to drive exactly the way that we were, without actually worried about without any missteps. And I have to say, shout out to both of them and everybody else involved, because we continued, nose down, working on it. No changes. So really awesome stuff. And yes, we're actually hiring developers to work on eBPF in Windows. I think if you go to isovalent.com/jobs, is that right? Nope. Is it careers? Yeah, careers. There we go. Yeah, I just saw somebody we just started with us last week working specifically on Windows, but Tetragon Windows developer working on eBPF and in Windows. All right, my friends. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. There's a lot. Well, and also I have this beautiful tree. It's my holiday tree, and all set up, looking great. Looking forward to the holidays this year. And I wanted to say thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Friday, and I will see you all next time, probably sometime in January, where I'll be exploring maybe some integrations with Splunk. And we'll talk to you then. Bye.